Some of my more memorable jumps out of my logbook. The first one was in 1964 in Holland. As I mentioned, I had been asked to be on the Dutch parachute team. So for one of our jumps in Holland, we asked the Air Force to take us up to 15.5. It was only two of us actually. The rest of the guys were working. And they took us in a Fokker F-27, and we put a stick of static line jumpers, military guys, out at about 1,000 feet, and the two of us went up to 15.5. And of course we're a good 25, 30 feet from the pilot. Poor communications, it wasn't well planned. We were meant to jump over Ypenburg Air Force Base, which was a really big Air Force base. And the plane was all over the sky. We couldn't get good corrections to the pilot, so Steve just said, let's go. And out the door we went, and we slowed down the terminal velocity because the airplane was going about 250 miles an hour. So, we played tag in the sky. Steve had an altimeter, I did not. I had about 65 jumps at the time. We were getting down, and I thought, well, it's getting close, Steve should be waving me off and opening, and nothing. And I looked down and I went, it's time. And I was probably at 1,000 feet if I had to think about it, under canopy. I looked down, no Air Force base to be seen anywhere. It was all city, The Hague, Holland. And there were trucks, buses, trolley cars with electrical wires, row houses, motorbikes, and I thought I just got to go for something green, and I saw a backyard of one of the houses, and I was just hoping I could get over the house and into the backyard. I did not. My feet hit the front door of the house, knocked it off its hinges, and I ended up bouncing into the foyer and just sitting there and waiting for the owner to come beat the hell out of me, but nobody was home. We gathered up our rigs. Steve landed down the street, and just about the time we thought we were free, the cops came, took us to the police station. Steve explained to them that the winds aloft were blowing and the airplane was crooked, and he just gave them a bunch of BS. And while we were there, the lady who owned the house that I broke her door came, and we paid her for her door. Shortly after that, when we were in Leutkirch for the 7th World Parachuting Championships, after the competition was over, there was a jump of nations, and there were 6 or 7 de Havillands, carried 7, 8 people, I forget how many, and I ended up being by the door in the lead aircraft on jump run, and they're going, you're spotting all this load, and I'm going, don't blow it, so I spotted it, and I thought, I'm going to go low because we got all these guys on my back. And so that was another low opening, maybe 1,200 feet. I don't remember. It was pretty low though. After that, back in California, jumping, you talk to woofos about skydiving, and they always ask the question, well, what if the parachute doesn't open? And the typical questions. And I said, well, I could pack my parachute in a paper bag and take it up on my arms and jump it, and it'll open. And whoever it was, oh, case of beer, you can't do that. So I bet a case of beer. I taped 2 paper grocery bags together, stowed my canopy in, stowed the lines, took it up, jump and throw, I guess. And it opened, and a case of beer, anything for a case of beer. I worked for Irvin Parachute Company as a fabrics draftsman, and we got to develop the Parawing, and we were dummy dropping it at Yuma, and when it was time for some live drops, we went up to Arvin, and Ed Drumheller, I know Jeannie McCombs was there, some really old timers, and we all got to make a few jumps on this thing, and the opening shot was just something you can't, it was just awful, really hard openings, and chin in your reserve, and finally when after a few jumps on that, we were told to take it to 5-second delays, because we were doing jump and pulls, and 5-second delays just about knocked you out. It was pretty brutal, very brutal. On Gypsy Moths, we were to do a familiarization jump. It was the first day of filming on location in Kansas, and the director asked us to make a familiarization jump because all the production people were on the ground ready to go. So Carl, when we're in the plane, Carl goes, "Everybody take it low. We'll give them a show." And I was high man at 1,200 feet. Carl was low man at 600 feet. And the aftermath of that was that all the production people on the ground wouldn't talk to us. They thought we were freaks. They just thought, "We've got to stay away from these guys. They're bad." But they warmed up to us. And I also, in the opening scene of the film, we were making precise landings on the runway, and it was really windy at altitude, and it was really windy on the ground, and we had been missing the mark, and the director was pressing us. And so I was coming in, and I thought, I got to go downwind because I'm going to miss the mark again. And I, pretty much face planted myself into the ground and broke my clavicle and separated my shoulder. And Burt Lancaster was on the ground in his jumpsuit because he had replaced the prior jumper, and he, asked me if I was okay. I did get up, and I said, "No, I'm not." So after the sequence was over, they hauled me off to the hospital and casted me up from the waist up to my shoulders. And Burt Lancaster came and brought me a fifth of vodka, which I thought was very cool. And then when we all got back to California, he insisted I use his orthopedic surgeon, which was, he was a nice man. He was a really thoughtful guy. The bat wings on Gypsy Moths was difficult. When you opened, you had to, let go of the wings and sit up, and the wings would come around and almost cover your backpack, and you dumped and tried to clear the pilot chute away from them. And then when opening shot came, the bat wings would come around, and I think the first time I jumped it bloodied my nose. So then after that, it was sit up, dump, protect yourself, and then land without impaling yourself on these, because they had aluminum rods inside each wing. After I'd moved to Hawaii, we were jumping into the Diamond Head crater celebrations, which it's a big bowl. If anybody knows what Diamond Head looks like from the air, it's a big crater, and there was probably 20,000 people inside, all stoners. I remember Carlos Santana was the main act. We were the opening of it, and there was jumped out of a Piper Cherokee, and I was the only one that had short hair. Everybody else had long hair. All the other jumpers had long hair. So we land in the crater, and all these freaks are hey, screaming and hollering, and we take off our helmets. We're Mr. Big Shot, right? And all these hippies giving joints to all the guys with long hair, and one of them handed me an apple. So go figure. And we also did a lot of jumps at the Kaneohe Marine Corps Air Base. Guys are returning from Vietnam. The commanding general of the Air Force Base wanted to keep these troops pretty happy. So he invited some of us civilian guys over there to help form their club. And we got to jump out of his DC-3, all kinds of helicopters, H-34, Hueys. It was really fun. They're all free. And the general was just really happy with us because, he kept his troops occupied. And on one last jump on my 1,000th free fall. My good friend Tom Anderson arranged for me to become a member of the Mile High Club. And our jump aircraft at the time was a Cessna 182. And he had taped off the pilot, you know, in his private little compartment so we could have privacy. And my girlfriend at the time was the participant. So on that jump, I got in the Mile High Club. I got my gold wings. I got my 10-year USPA pin, and I did my one and only nude jump. And that pretty much tells some of my jumps that I really remember. And one last thing, downwind on round canopies.